Imagine Germany at the 1930s. People were not getting job, there was a hunger crisis, the economy was badly suffering. And then comes a guy who says, if I am the leader, then I will solve all your problems, and after 50 years, Germany will be the greatest country of all. But everything lasted for 12 years. Before knowing how Hitler fell, let us quickly understand how he rose. The Nazis in the 1920s were a small radical movement which wanted to overthrow the Weimar Republic. This Weimar Republic was established at the end of the World War I, and most of the people in Germany embraced democracy, but there were few who thought it to be illegitimate like the Nazis. Now Hitler and the other Nazi leaders thought that they could overthrow the Weimar Republic in a night. So in 1923, Hitler and the other Nazi leaders tried to capture the German state of Bavaria and then decided to march to Berlin. This plan was much ahead of its time, and this would have surely worked if it was in the medieval era. So naturally Hitler got arrested and all the Nazi newspapers, the Nazi party and the essay were all banned. And during the months Hitler was in prison, he wrote a book called Mein Kampf. When Hitler came out of jail, he faced a new landscape. The Weimar Republic was at its peak. The period between 1924 and 1929 is considered to be the golden era of the Weimar Republic. Thus, Hitler decided he would take part in parliamentary elections and win with the support of the masses. Remember, the Nazis had only changed their political strategy, not their philosophy. It's just like changing the ladder to reach the same goal. Now the Nazi leaders wanted to have their reach all over Germany. A centralized government was set up that corresponded with Germans' electoral districts and facilitated election campaigns. Despite their efforts, they were not able to win over the elections from 1926 to 1928. They remained small and marginal. Their anti-Semitism and anti-democratic messages did not appeal to many voters during the period of prosperity. Now the Nazi leaders decided to change their tactics. Previously they targeted to win over the working class voters. Now after the 1928, they targeted the urban and rural class voters. The golden age of the Weimar Republic ended when the Great Depression hit Germany. In the late 1929, unemployment rose quickly and the economic crisis soon caused a political deadlock in Germany. The parties in power could not control the economical situation, and at last, German President Paul von Hindenburg appointed Heinrich Brüning as Chancellor. German President and Chancellor used Article 48 of Weimar Republic to pass laws without the consent of the Parliament, and when Parliament objected to it, Paul von Hindenburg dissolved the Parliament and called for new elections. This time Hitler and the Nazi leaders campaigned aggressively and condemned the Weimar Republic as weak and ineffective. At last, Hitler won 18% of the votes. The result sent shockwaves throughout Germany. The Nazis were now the second largest party in the parliament. Suddenly, Hitler was an important player in German politics. In the parliament, the Nazi deputies were deliberately rowdy and disruptive. They refused to support any of the government's measures. By 1931, the violence on the German street had become unmanageable. The Nazi party's paramilitary and the SA men were especially violent. They abused the Jews and often killed their political opponents, especially the communists. The German government failed to stop the violence, and this further undermined the faith of Germans on Weimar Republic. In 1932, there were 5 major elections in Germany from February to November. Rallies, demonstrations, and marches occupied German life. In the campaigns, the Nazis tried to create a feeling that they were the future of Germany and their victory was inevitable, and this created a huge impact on Germany. In 1932, Hindenburg's office also ended and new elections were called on March 13. Hitler presented himself as the only hope for Germany's future. The Nazi party considered themselves as the party of youth and called Hindenburg as old. This time, Hindenburg won 50% of the votes and the Nazis won 30% of the votes. And in the next elections, the Nazis won 33% of the votes. And in the next year, Hitler was appointed as Chancellor by Hindenburg. Conservative politicians believed that they would be able to control Hitler, but this was the beginning of his dictatorship. On March 23, 1933, the Enabling Act was passed, which gave Hitler the power to pass laws that even violated the parliament. The Nazi party's power grab was complete when Hindenburg died. A new law combined the offices of President and the Chancellor and gave Hitler total power, and thus he became the dictator we know.